Hey nerds, return with us to Middle-earth as we review and discuss The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2, starting now. Welcome back to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Paula.
As always, if you want to jump ahead of the intro to our analysis or rating, see the chapter links below. The way that we're going to do this, since they drop 3 episodes, is that we'll dive into each episode, and then we'll probably break this conversation up into different videos so that you guys can digest all the information. We are going to give you a spoiler-free logline for the episode, then give you a rating for each episode, and then we're going to start talking about spoilers. All right, so episode 3, which we don't have a title for, I assume, by the time this actually debuts, they'll have some titles for them. We're reviewing this, by the way, or we're talking about this on Monday. All right, so we have episode 3, and the spoiler-free logline for this episode is: in an intense episode, alliances are tested and secrets come to light across Middle-earth and Númenor, from the treacherous caves of Mirkwood to the halls of Armenelos. As Isildur faces new dangers in the Southlands, Númenor's political landscape shifts dramatically during Tar-Míriel's coronation, and the forging of powerful artifacts begin in Eregion, setting the stage for events that could alter the fate of all. This is directed by Charlotte Brändström and Louise again, and written by Helen Shang. So what did you think of this 3rd episode that they dropped this week?
It's almost like a continuation because it's just moving on to a different land, different parts. It's the same timeline.
Yeah.
So just more information that you're getting. It was good.
Yeah, I appreciated towards her actually in this episode. What we do is we start to bounce around everyone except for, well, you're going to get into that, but we get to see the Númenors. This is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the entire 3 set. At the end of the 3rd episode, you get updates on everyone, which I appreciated. I appreciated some of the political intrigue here. You saw some of this happening in the 1st season. And Galadriel, as we talked about in the previous episode, really screwed the Númenorians. Really screwed over the entire island, screwed up the political landscape there. This singular person just strolled into their city. Things were a little unstable, and then she just knocked everything over. And she's not even there anymore. So she's elsewhere, and she's not even there to pick up the pieces or even help or anything. It was interesting.
She is out there messing up someone else, messing up another.
Yeah, so anyway, it's an interesting episode. It's for a lot of reasons. So how would you rate this one?
Even an 8.
You give it an 8? I think I'm going to give this one an 8 as well. It's a good episode. We get some updates on a lot of different people. All right, so we are going to start talking about the specifics. If you haven't seen the 3rd episode of season 2, go and see it before you watch this and then come back. All right, spoilers ahead. All right, so we start in the Southlands in this episode, episode 3. This is Isildur, his horse. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Rochalar. So this is actually a flashback to when his father, Elendil, left Middle-earth, and he tries to get the horse onto the ship, and he doesn't go. So the horse runs away. Isildur's horse, Rochalar, runs away. He gets attacked by some orcs, and he's able to fight them off. And then he runs into what they call the Black Forest, which I think is the Mirkwood Forest, where they don't follow. And then in the cave, Rochalar finds Isildur, but he's being held captured by, I think this is Shelob, the spider that shows up in The Lord of the Rings, because her predecessor died in the First Age. So she would actually be alive around this time. And you see a bunch of her offspring, and a bunch of her offspring are supposed to be in this forest. So I guess we see her creating her offspring here. So Shelob has him strung up, basically to feed her children. Rochalar helps him escape, and then they escape the cave. And then we jump to Númenor. The first time we've seen Númenor since last season, and people are mourning their dead. This is what I'm talking about when I said Galadriel created a bunch of issues and then left them to deal with their issues. So we have the funeral for the king. This has nothing to do with her, but they have a lot more funerals going on right now besides this funeral for the king. Isildur's sister, Arien, blames Tar-Míriel for what she believes is Isildur's death. She has memories of the king's last words and the Palantir that she found. She has some flashbacks to that. Tar-Míriel enters the hall to formally mourn her father, and Elendil joins her side. And the Queen Legion was blinded in the battle last season. This is something that they actually mentioned at the beginning of the first episode. Or sorry, the beginning of this episode. They do a recap at the beginning of this episode to remind the audience she was blinded. And then she asks Elendil to basically give her the skinny on what's going on in the room. And a noble from the north is talking to Pharazôn to pay his respects. Ostensibly, he's there to pay his respects to her father, but she's very skeptical of that because she doesn't think that he respected her father at all. But he's really talking to Pharazôn to try to convince him of something. And then a woman whose child died in the battle slaps her, and then she consoles her. Basically, she embraces her instead of having her hauled off. I feel like her natural tendency to be a kind person is getting her into trouble. I think this was a good way to handle this, but she has to show strength as well. I also think generally the reason that she's reacting like this is because she also feels guilty, because she followed Galadriel off a cliff basically, and she feels guilty about that. She didn't say yes immediately. She also did consult the Palantir, which is going to get her in trouble later on in the episode. And then she, remember, if you remember from last season, she saw that vision of Númenor being destroyed. Right. I think maybe she thought that going to war would help. So later on, we see Pharazôn enter the king's quarters where she's trying to search for a bangle and hiding that from him. And she finds it before he enters. And he suggests that she chooses a gown for her coronation, and he suggests crimson to signify the future, or white to signify the past, and she chooses white to honor her father. And also she said it's humbler. And then we see a scene at a tavern where Pharazôn's son, he's super annoying. Kemen is basically sitting with his father Belzegar, who is the noble from the north, and Eren complaining about Tar-Míriel, saying that she has an infirmity and she's not fit to lead. And Belzegar suggests that Pharazôn should lead, but he's wary. He doesn't think that he has the people behind him. And then Eregion suggests that there's some information that she could turn the tide. Then Valendil, Isildur's best friend, comes over because he hears Kemen's BS, and he basically threatens him because he also notes the queen's bravery in the battle, and how she went into a burning building. That's how she lost her sight. So after Valendil leaves, Pharazôn tells her to continue talking, and she continues and says that she found something. And then they cut away to the queen using the bangle to go into the chamber, and the Palantir is missing. So I think she wanted to get more guidance, and now she doesn't have the thing to get guidance from anymore. Then we cut to, this is a short scene. This is the only time we actually are in Mordor in this episode. So Adar is readying orcs for battle, and one of them actually questions him, and he tells him that you have to trust me because Sauron is basically that much of a threat. We won't be safe while Sauron lives. And it's interesting. I didn't know orcs could have children. I thought they were just corrupted. I didn't really think about how they're reproduced, but this guy has a kid and a wife, so that's why he's concerned about going to battle again. So they're really trying to humanize the orcs here. And then a hill troll shows up, who's apparently eaten dragons before. So they're enlisting, Adar is trying to enlist a hill troll as well. So yeah, this is one of the big special effects in the first couple episodes, because there aren't a whole lot of special effects, but this troll does look very convincing, very large. Then we go to Eregion, where Durin and Disa come and hear the offer of the rings, the dwarven rings, in exchange for Mithril. Celebrimbor hopes that Durin can speak to his father, but he informs him that he isn't on speaking terms. And then Anatar chimes in, saying that maybe bringing the information might be a way to earn the respect of his father, given that it could save Khazad-dûm. And Durin is very suspicious of him, and he asks why Elrond isn't there, and Anatar lies and basically says he's busy in Lindon with the restoration. And Anatar also says Elrond speaks very fondly of him to flatter him. I don't know if Durin is just very wise, or just elves in general can just smell BS more than humans and elves, because he's not buying anything that Anatar is saying. Yeah. His usual tricks aren't working as well.
Then he does also say that his good friend
never say good things about him.
Never say good things about him.
Yeah, so Anatar is impatient, but Celebrimbor gives them time to consider, and then they end up, then alone with Disa, he does say that Elrond would never say nice things about him, so he knows that he's lying. And Durin is stubborn, but Disa implores him to speak to his father because to save Khazad-dûm. And then we have a scene with Annatar, again, manipulating Celebrimbor. He tries to get him to move faster, basically, to hasten his work, telling him that the High King believes that the dwarves are unworthy of power, telling him that he's forbidden him forging any more rings. Again, I think that is actually true. So he's telling him the truth, but he's also playing on his vanity, telling him a half-truth, right? So Celebrimbor writes to the king, telling him that he's closing the forge and promising to meet in Lindor to try to give them more time. So he lies because of his hubris, and he doesn't want to be held back practicing what he calls the height of his craft, because he's been practicing for, I don't know, probably a few thousand years now, and he thinks this is that he'll be able to meet the height of his craft. All right, so then we get to the Southlands, or I guess the Southlands are now Mordor. Isildur is tired and thirsty. He rides Rocheller, and he is looking for aid, and he comes upon a woman named Astrid who stabs him in the thigh. That's a fatal wound, by the way, especially when you pull the knife out, which she did. She says that she thought he was an orc and then renders aid to him, and then joins him as they travel to Pelargir in the hopes of catching his people before they depart Middle-earth, although they've already gone. Pelargir is a Númenorian port city. So Astrid says that she's hoping to find her betrothed. And then they come upon a man who says that he was attacked by orcs. Astrid says they should just keep it moving, but Isildur wants to give him some food. And then he notices the brand on his arm, which is the brand that the Wildmen have that say that they're sworn to Adar. And they're about to kill Isildur when Eregion shows up, the Sylvan elf. And just before the Wildmen is about to kill him, that he shows up and he kills all the Wildmen. And Rocheller is spooked and he runs away. They go back to...
Actually, he doesn't run away. He gets captured.
Oh, he gets captured? Okay. Okay.
And he goes back to get his
him later on, yeah. Then a bunch of stuff happens in Pelargir. What we start with is they get to Pelargir and Eregion is about to light the funeral pyre for his love, the human healer Bronwyn. So a little bit of notes outside of this show. The actor is Iranian, and she actually decided to quit acting to focus on activism because of all the things going on in Iran right now, especially women's rights stuff. So that's why she's not in the show anymore. So that's why they wrote her out, because the way that they left things last season, she was injured, but I think she was supposed to recover. So they had to write her out of the show. So anyways, she was injured in the battle with the orcs, the same battle that took Tar-Míriel's site. He can't bring himself to light the fire, but Theo, her son, does light the fire, takes the torch and lights the fire. And then Astrid and Isildur are there looking on with all the other Southland people who actually survived the battle of the orcs, which isn't a lot of people. And then Eregion tries to comfort Theo and he pulls away. Back in Khazad-dûm, the merchants are petitioning the king to open the royal grain reserves, and the king is advised that the reserves will only last 3 months. And then he asks his son to be sent in because I guess Doran is waiting for him. And then Doran tells him about the rings and the offer of power from Eregion, basically. And they patch their relationship up, but at the end of the conversation, when they patch their relationship up, Doran also expresses his concern about the rings, but he was duty bound because of the situation in Khazad-dûm to tell him about the opportunity, but he is concerned about the rings, probably because Annatar is super creepy. And he doesn't trust that dude. So yeah, that's what happens there. And then we go back to Pelargir, where Eregion recounts how Bronwyn died to Isildur while Theo patches him up more thoroughly. And then Eregion encourages Theo to work as a healer. And Theo's like, yeah, the healer died. We just lit the healer on fire. And then Eregion goes into a story about how he was born on Beleriand, was another island that was sunk basically in the First Age with the battle with Morgoth. And he felt some anger about it being sunk. The way that he slyly says, "You're not my father." In all this time that we were watching us, did you ever see my father? Do you know who he is? No, I don't. So yeah, and I know you're not my father. So it is cold. He says something like, whatever our relationship was before, it's ashes now. Hey, kid.
It was quite shady.
It was shady, yes. I guess he thought that he could save her and he didn't, and then he's mad. So I guess because they had to write her out of the show and that whatever they were going to have was going to be basically a relationship between him and her, they had to write some drama between him and her son. Yeah. So I guess we'll see some drama between the two of them this season. Anyway, Theo offers to help Isildur find Rocheller in the evening, and then this scene right here that we're looking at at this image is when Isildur talks to Astrid about the way his mother died. His mother basically died trying to save him from drowning because he went out too far, and she died in the process. And apparently no one in his family knows this story. He just told them that she died by drowning. So that's interesting. He's getting closer to her, but who knows if it's a good idea, because when Theo shows up to help him find the horse, we see that she has the same mark on the back of her neck. And she uses a knife to burn it away so she's not found out. So I don't know. So like, hard to tell at this point, because at the beginning of the first episode, it was basically pledge or die. You saw the guy who was like hesitated for a couple seconds and he got a sword in his stomach. How committed is she? Is she trying to play him, or did she just pledge because she had to, or she was going to die? I guess we'll...
You're not quite sure if she pledged because she didn't have a choice, or she pledged because she actually wanted to, or yeah, we're still trying to figure her out.
Yeah, I haven't, so I guess I could have looked this up to see who his wife will be, because not only is his wife in that final battle, not only is he in the final battle, but his sons are, so he has children. So if the wife's name is Astrid, I guess that's a good sign that she isn't full of crap, but there'll be some sort of confrontation between the two of them in the future, because he's starting to get closer to her. He told her something that he's never told anyone else in his life, which is weird. I don't know if he feels a connection with her or whatever, but anyway, they jump to where Theo takes Isildur to the Wildmen encampment, where they are holding Rocheller and have him tied up. The Wildmen are nearly alerted to Isildur's movements while trying to retrieve the horse, but Theo provides a distraction, telling them that he's one of them sworn to Adar, and Isildur frees Rocheller, but they don't believe Theo and they hold him, and then they start getting attacked. But it's really unclear who they're getting attacked from, because if they are wild men sworn to Adar, I'm not sure why the orcs would be killing them. But we do see like Theo look up at something and then get lifted up by something, and we saw the troll earlier, so I guess this was the troll. But why would the orcs be attacking these guys that are sworn to? I guess we'll find out.
Because I have an idea of who it is, just based on the movie. Do you want to know?
Sure, yeah.
I think it's the trees.
Oh, the Ents? Oh, yeah. It could be the Ents. Yes, it could be the Ents. Yeah, I did see some, I guess we didn't see any like weaponry. We saw their weapons being thrown back at them, but I don't think we saw any weaponry thrown. So like, it could be the Ents. Yeah, you're right. It could be the Ents. That'd be cool to see the Ents attacking them, because we just see Theo's perspective looking up, and then we see him being pulled into the air. He cries out, and then Isildur turns around and calls out for Theo, and then Theo doesn't answer. So yeah, and then the way that we end is the last scene is the coronation of our queen here, Tar-Míriel. She enters the coronation in her white gown that she decided on, and before she takes the scepter, she is interrupted by a heckler who calls her the Queen of Lies and says she's unfit to lead because of the deaths in Middle-earth in the Southlands. And then she tries to calm down the crowd with her sympathy. This is what I was saying, that like, she could have shut down the proceedings, and that's probably what she should have done, instead of trying to be like the soother of everyone, because Eregion comes in, enters the hall with the Palantir covered, and tells everyone gathered that the Queen Regent took counsel from the orb, and it's likely what counseled her to go to war. And then Pharazôn pretends like he's shocked and says that it's a lie and no true ruler of Númenor would put their faith in an elvish artifact. And then she's asked for it to be destroyed, and she says, no, don't destroy it, because she claims it, basically, which shocks everyone, which also starts an uprising in the crowd. And then Elendil tries to reach out for her in the fray. First he tries to get the Palantir, and then he gets blown back when he tries to touch it, and then he tries to save her because there's a bunch of people rushing her, and then an eagle shows up. And remember, I was saying earlier that eagles are sent by the Valar, so I can understand why people might see that as a message, but it's not clear that it's being sent for Pharazôn, but Pharazôn is the one who approaches it, and then Lord Belzegar uses that opportunity to claim that the eagle favors him, and the crowd starts chanting his name. So yeah, telling a little bit from the future, he does eventually take over, and that's the beginning of the fall of Númenor. Anyway, like I said, Galadriel started some dominoes that's going to end with this whole kingdom sinking.
And now
And then we end the episode in Eregion, where King Durin III brings the mithril to make the dwarven rings. He hands the mithril to Celebrimbor, but unlike the elven rings, Sauron is part of this process. So he hands it over to Annatar, and Annatar does something with his hands that if you watch that scene, I don't know what he does. He maybe swaps it out for something else and then puts it into the forge, and while Dissa and Prince Doran are looking on. So I guess we'll see what that that is, or what he did. I guess we'll see what he did in a future episode. We know what he did. He corrupted them, but
He corrupted them.
yeah. So anyway, so yeah, 3 hours of start for the season. It's a lot, but any final thoughts on any of the episodes?
Like you said, it is a lot, but it's only a lot because there's so many different storylines.
Yeah.
And like you said also, those 3 episodes essentially catches us up on every
group. Yeah.
So
I think it was good that they dropped the 3 episodes.
Good. Yeah.
All right. That is what we think, but we want to know what you think. Comment down below with your thoughts. And if you found this review useful, don't forget to like the video and share and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of film and TV. And we will see you in the next one. All right, guys. Bye.